Well, welcome back to Bitcoin Generations. I'm Bodie, and we have Jor here. We're focused on bringing information to baby boomers and new Bitcoiners, and we talk all about Bitcoin and all kinds of things related to Bitcoin, even the mindset and all those things. How you doing, Jor?
I couldn't be any better if I wanted to be, Bodie. It's good. Life is good.
I'm so glad to hear that. You sound very serious as you say that, though.
Well, I mean, it really depends on how you define good, but busy. I'm busy. I got lots going on. The price increase usually leads to lots of messages and emails and all that. So it's a good thing, but it's still kind of hectic, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got a lot of people vying for your information and your attention. So let's just move right into this. I really appreciate everybody showing up today. Thanks for coming in, Letha. It's good to see you. Some of our regular viewers. Um, just kind of want to just ping right off the title here today, Jor. So the title of our podcast is "You Think You Know About Bitcoin." Maybe Bitcoin doesn't care about you. Um, and so here, kind of a little bit of a bold statement, uh, but I think it's kind of sometimes we need a little bit of a kick in the rear, and and so where I'm going to go with this, Jor, is I think a lot of people, especially you hear about Bitcoin, you hear it over here, you hear it over there, you hear it by somebody who, you don't consider, maybe you don't view them very, or you don't trust them, or you haven't established a relationship or anything with somebody who mentions it. And you're kind of like, yeah, that's off. That's kind of off in the I'm not so sure department. Um, and I think one of the things we kind of as this time goes by, we keep getting more and more exposed to this the Bitcoin. And you know, for us, for I talk about it every day, you talk about it every day. And when you're not podcasting, I know I'm talking about it with everybody that I can. How about you? I mean, what's your you kind of like live this 24/7 sort of, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I've said it a couple times before, but I really believe it. The further you get into Bitcoin, it seems like it actually changes every part of you. And I think the further I dive into like the philosophy behind things and why things are the way they are, it makes sense because you basically become whatever you think about all day. And so in that sense, if you're thinking about, and not just like, Bitcoin as a monetary system, but Bitcoin as in transparency, honesty, truth, freedom, sovereignty, that's the life that you start to live. Because when you get to that point, you just understand that the other system, the system that we came from, doesn't make any sort of sense at all. And
Right.
you can't just pretend like it does make sense once you get to a certain point. So I think that that's absolutely true. I spend probably, I don't know if you call it too much time in Bitcoin, but I do need to remind myself sometimes that yes, there is Bitcoin. Yes, there is the community here. Yes, all this is amazing, but I still have life outside of this, right? Like I have interests, I have family, I have friends that aren't necessarily into Bitcoin. And that's kind of the hard part that I've found recently is kind of trying to balance the two because it is when you get into Bitcoin, when you understand it, when the greed line comes on, it's it's hard not to just want to spread it. I think that's the whole point of it. So luckily we do have a lot of great people working towards that and trying to turn more green lights on around the world, but it's happening slowly.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on something really good there. And I want to get to the Bitcoin doesn't care about you part of the statement that I titled this with. But let's talk a little bit about like something you mentioned was uh, you know, Bitcoin is, I forget how you said it. It's like it's part of your life, but it's not all of your life. But if we kind of pinch ourselves and we look at like where we are in history, and we're absolutely I'm being totally objective about this. Where we are in history today It's still April 2025. Um, I would say that we are at the precipice of something just massively huge, and I'm not understating that. And I'm thinking the reason why, I'm saying that and why I think I spend so much time reading and learning about it and educating family members and other people who are willing to talk to with me about it is because if you had something that was actually changing the world that you live in, and we're seeing it do that, we're seeing several things happen at once. It's sort of like slow motion fiat death system of the rent seeking ugly, evil empire of that has been built over centuries, really. You're seeing that, and that's like that deserves its whole universe of conversation. But at the same time, you're seeing like the rise of the solution to not the savior of the world, I would say, but the solution to the fiat rent-seeking, ugly, evil empire that has been. So simultaneously, you're going like, okay, this one's not going so well. And it's like, how do I, what do I do about that? Because, dollars, wait, how do you don't mess with the dollar system. Oh, how could you dare ever just think about talking about something that would replace that? Oh, no, we can't have that. At the same time, you're seeing this other thing being built. You're seeing it if we're paying attention, if we're listening, if we're watching, if we're learning, if we're digging deeper, if we're building our skills, stacking new kinds of knowledge, new kinds of things. What are we doing? We're seeing that one die. Oh, yes, I said that. And we're seeing this one rise. And so we are, so you think you know about Bitcoin, you need to like dig deep every day. And the reason why you need to do that is we can segue right into right now. Bitcoin doesn't care about you. Let's have that part of the conversation now, Jor, because we are humans. We are humans. Pretty much everybody who's listening, except for AI, everyone who's listening has a heartbeat, has a brain, hopefully. And Bitcoin doesn't have a heartbeat. Bitcoin doesn't have a brain, a biological, organic, human bred, brain. So Bitcoin doesn't care. It doesn't have a human element. It goes. It does what it does. It's software. It's hardware network, but it does what it does, and it will not stop. It will not care. It doesn't do any sort of feelings or emotions or anything like that. It's based on energy and math, these kinds of things. So, you think you know about Bitcoin, you don't know about Bitcoin yet. It's like even the people. I'm going to have to slow down because you got a lot to say. Let me let you jump.
Oh, I'm letting you talk. I'm loving it. Well, except you froze
Did
now,
I
or I froze. We jinxed it.
was you or something happened? Are you still with us?
I can
think
hear
are.
you. You're still frozen on my end, though.
Let's see.
The AI's listen. They got you.
There we go. I see you now. Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I didn't want to cut you off there. You were on a roll there. I was enjoying it. But no, it's absolutely true. You're absolutely right. Every word that you said was absolutely accurate. And I think it's important to dive into why Bitcoin doesn't understand and what that really means, because Bitcoin itself is just a protocol. It's just code. That's all that it is. And as you mentioned, it has no feelings. There's no ability to change it, which is a very important component of that. But really, all that the Bitcoin network is just a ledger. That's all it is. It's just a ledger of transactions, of data. If I want to send you value, I can. If I want to add something, if I want to write something in my transaction, it's going to be there forever. It's just a ledger. But the difference between the Bitcoin network's ledger, the fair, open, transparent, honest ledger that is Bitcoin, it's a much different ledger than the one that we came from. And in that sense, if you looked at a chart of like, or a graphic of like how the Bitcoin network works versus how the fiat system works, it's like the meme of the guy on the chalkboard with things going all over here. And this is connected to the Vatican, and this is connected to England, and this is connected to Wall Street. And there's a million other things going around and around. And they have to keep manipulating it in order for it to survive. Whereas Bitcoin is just simply an honest ledger. Every block on the Bitcoin network is just a bunch of transactions. That's all it is. And so you can choose to, everybody has the ability to choose to use that network versus the one that we came from. It's completely voluntary. It does not care. It's not going to wait for you. But the faster you understand Bitcoin, the faster that green light turns on in your mind, the better off that you're going to be. And I think that it's not only a matter of like trying to get rich anymore, it's a matter of like security for your family. Because whoever's in your family, whatever spouses, kids, whoever, they've been working, they've been adding value to the world in exchange for value in return. And you can either store that in the manipulated, broken, completely broken system that will continue to rob you and steal from you forever, or you can move it over to the honest ledger. And it's really nothing more than that. People love to complicate Bitcoin. It's very simple. It's just an open, transparent ledger that nobody has the ability to manipulate or change.
So I completely, absolutely, 100% see this. The green light is on. I've got at least a precursory understanding of the Bitcoin network, and the human side of that, the hardware side, the software side, decentralization of it. But I want to acknowledge, I want to just, talk about the elephant in the room here, and that is the denial of many in the old system. Many in this system that we are saying old system, and we have not completely decoupled from that system yet. It's absolutely imperative that we actually name it, just own it, that we have been living as, a country. And I will talk for the United States, because the United States has a US dollar. We own that there's a Federal Reserve. There was a thing that happened at Jekyll Island way back. And, there's some great stories on that. The Creature of Jekyll Island is a great book, an audio book for those of us who don't like to read. But that history cannot be changed. Now, a lot of people in power like to change history. They like to rewrite history. And there's some of the history that we learned in public schools that is absolutely false. But I would say that system is breaking. It's in the process of breaking. It's been in the process for a long time. We know that it kind of has been happening gradually, but we are getting more and more closer to the suddenly part. And it's becoming, the heat is sort of getting hot. And so, I want to kind of early on here, we're only a little ways into this, but I want to encourage people to, like, this is the painful part of the message that we're bringing today. Okay. The painful part of the message for new Bitcoiners and for baby boomers, especially, is, yeah, own it. We created this system. Maybe it was our grandparents or something, their generation, but this system has been created, and we have been living in this system for so long. It's really all we know. And we talked before on this podcast about real estate and why that's traditionally been a store of value, and it isn't any longer. We're seeing housing prices kind of like pull back a little bit. And they were growing, but they're pulling back. Housing sales have been pulling back. But the message, the encouragement, though, in all that bad news, is that there is good news, but there is a component that you have to get engaged in. You have to put your running shoes on. You have to get physically fit. You have to start eating well, because there's going to be some brain cells required of you. You're going to have to go after Bitcoin knowledge, Bitcoin education. You're going to have to do these things. So, George, speak a little bit about some of the stuff that you talk about on your channel and some of the educational resources about, like, what people can go after if they want to learn how to get, let's get up to speed here because I'm not up to speed. How can I get up to speed, Jor?
I I mean, there's a couple different things I wanted to touch on there, Bodie. The first one you said is that you were talking about the Federal Reserve, the creature from Jekyll Island, how that all spawned. I think that that's a really important starting point for a lot of people, is just to understand how this system came to be. It's nobody's fault it's alive right now. None of us had anything to do with it. None of us really chose to be in that system. We were just kind of born into it. And I think that when you realize that, when you realize how broken that system is, how it came to be, what factors were involved, what the motives behind it were, I think you would be pretty quick to run away from it. But the other thing too there is that when we think about it as a ledger, and let's say that 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, that's when the new ledger, the fiat system, came to be. And the problem with that system is that even though the government tells us, we look at the M2 money supply, we look at the government debt, which are completely outrageous figures that the human brain can't comprehend how big those figures really are. But that's the numbers that they tell us. So if you understand anything about how the system works, you would kind of realize that if they tell us that there's $5 trillion worth of liquidity of cash in the system of dollars within the US, then I think it'd be closer to like 10, 15, 20 trillion. Like there's so much that happens without us knowing it. And that's why we need the transparent ledger that is the Bitcoin network, because not only can it not be changed, but you can look at it at any time. You can verify the fact that you actually have those units, those Satoshis in your wallet. And I don't know, is Bodie still here? He's frozen on my screen. Can you hear me, Bodie?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I just didn't want to be talking to the air there.
Yeah.
But it's important to know, because the system that was created, that we come from, has never been audited. Again, going back to that figure that I said, that's what they tell us. But have we ever been able to verify that those are the actual amounts? And it's important, because based on how much currency, how much money is in the economy, that affects all prices. That affects your net worth, every single aspect of it. So it's important to note the fact that the system that we came from is completely broken. It has never been audited before. It's just a lie. The whole thing is just a lie, head to toe. And you compare that to Bitcoin, which is an honest, transparent ledger. That's where we're going with that. But the other thing you said, Bodie, is that housing prices have been coming down a little bit as of late. I don't know if they're coming down or if the prices are or the sales are just slowing down. But it's important to note that housing prices have actually been falling for over a decade now, when you're measuring it in real terms, right? So I think we've shared this maybe at least one time in the past here, but can you just allow my screen share there?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, this is a great graphic.
I mean, it's so easy to see the difference here. And you can tell by looking at this that even though housing prices have been going up in fiat, in dollar terms, they've actually been going down significantly for the last decade in terms of Bitcoin, which is the real asset here. That everything is falling in comparison to Bitcoin, including real estate. And if you ask why it's falling, it's because it has a fixed amount of it, right? A verifiable fixed amount of supply. And you compare that to the dollar system, which is completely, the opposite of that, a complete illusion and unlimited supply. So when you measure things in a true, real currency, a hard money, everything falls in comparison. So you can see here, 2016, the housing prices were 288,000. 10 years later, they're 434,000. Everybody's happy. Their house is worth more. But what they don't understand is that house actually fell significantly in terms of the real currency here, which is Bitcoin. So in 2016, a house would have cost you 664 Bitcoin versus 2024, which is now 6.6. And probably in a decade from now, it'll be 0.6 of a Bitcoin, and then 0.06 of a Bitcoin. And it will just continue to fall against the real currency here, which is Bitcoin.
Excellent. Yeah. There is something I wanted to kind of like okay. So for those who are not tuned into some of the latest news, I would say, Jack Mallers and this Capital 21 company that has been formed. This is a new venture, maybe have been planned for quite a while, not sure. But I would say that there, I've been watching Jack Mallers for a few weeks now, and for those who don't know, he's the CEO of Strike. It's one of the Bitcoin exchanges that we recommend. I definitely recommend, one of the three that I recommend, just because it's one that I use, right? And I would say that I have a couple minutes. I just want to take a couple minutes, and I want to bring him up, and I want to show the the screen that he had. I'm gonna actually bring him up here, and he this is something that he did, not this week but last week. And I just want to play just a short little, like, this is how broken the system is, folks. Okay. And I'm not trying to, no fear, no nothing like that. I'm just trying to show, and I just want you to see this from his perspective. Okay, here we go.
Okay. So between the Fed and the US banking system, we're about to print a bunch of money. So what do I think is going to happen? I think Bitcoin's going to explode. That's what I think is going to happen. Just straight simple. It's simple. Bitcoin is technology plus fiat liquidity. More fiat currency units that exist, Bitcoin goes up the most. Okay. So the gig is up. The notion that, like, we have the upper hand in what? All we have is this green piece of paper that nobody cares about anymore. Nobody wants it anymore.
Okay, hold on a second. There's more, but I just want to, the gig is up. This was a lot. I think the context of this part of the conversation was in regard to the tariffs and the negotiations between US and China. Okay, so let's keep going.
That's what we have. We don't have anything else. We can't produce our own weapons. We can't produce our own food. We can't produce our own iPhones. We can't produce our own laptops. We can't produce our own clothes. We can't produce anything. That's why the focus, listen, you can love or hate Trump. It doesn't matter. That's not what this podcast is about. The reason he wants focus to be on energy, he wants to drill, baby, drill. He wants to bring manufacturing back to this country. It's because it's very dangerous to not be able to sustain yourself and have to rely on other countries to, like, live. We've gone too far. This whole idea that we can print money and just live outside of our means, not actually have to do the proof of work to afford the lifestyles we have, is garbage. It's over. It's dead. Finito. Poosh. We're going back to proof of work. We're going back to a system where it's neutral currency, accessible to all, biasing none. And it's all about proof of work. Proof of work. You cannot print it. You got to earn it.
Okay. I think that's a good place to stop there. And, I mean, he says it like nobody else really can. I mean, he's got his fingers deep into the heart of, this financial system of Bitcoin, and he's got the finger on the pulse of what's going on Wall Street. His background is he came up, I think, in some sort of finance background in Chicago, right? Chicago Board of Trade or something like that. Okay, so and this is for the baby boomers they're like, look at this guy in that hoodie, and they're going like, who is this guy? Well, he's the guy that was picked by some very significant people in Trump's administration, Howard Lutnick and some other folks at Tether, and who are buying, massive amounts of US debt right now. And he is going to be the CEO of Capital 21. And if you've heard of Michael Saylor at Strategy, this is going to be probably the second company that's doing things on the scale of what MicroStrategy is doing. Do I have that anywhere close?
No, you're absolutely close. You're bang on. I think, Jack's, I think everybody who's into Bitcoin loves Jack, respects Jack a lot. He's got some really good takes on things. His head's in the right spot. He's a young guy. I think that, it's a shift. I mean, I didn't even really think about it this way, but like it's a massive shift that's happening right now. And until this exact moment, I hadn't really put this whole thing together in my head. But like, think about all the money that's going to flow into 21 Capital, which is the company that Bodie was alluding to there. But we're shifting away from like the old guard of like suits, ties, boardrooms. Like this guy, yes, he's a CEO. Yes, the company is successful. Yes, he hooked his trailer up to the right cart, which is Bitcoin. But like this guy's on TV wearing a t-shirt and doing podcasts like this, hoodie and a hat or whatever he's wearing. Like everything's changing right now. And it doesn't really matter. All the gatekeepers are going away. All the middlemen are going away. It doesn't really matter, what you're wearing, what you look like, what it is. But I think the Jack is a perfect representation of the old guard shifting into this new one, the new decentralized world that we're moving into. And Jack mentioned something there I think we should go a little bit further into, which is he said that the government's going to print money, right? And we know that for a certainty. The fiat dollar, the one thing that you cannot argue or disagree with is that the fiat currency has nowhere to go. It's only going to go down from here. There's no way out for fiat currency. So what are they going to have to do? They're going to have to print. And as that debt grows, the interest on that debt grows, and they're going to have to print more money to counteract that. But here's the thing. If they printed a bunch of money and the price of Bitcoin went up, that's great for people who are holding Bitcoin. But in terms of like, if they print a bunch of money, things are going to get more expensive, right? It's not like all that value. There's no value there. Even though the price of Bitcoin goes up, that doesn't make Bitcoin more valuable. It just means that things are going to get more expensive for people. So if you're storing your time and your wealth and your energy in fiat, you're going to lose significantly. That's the point there. It's not that Bitcoin's going to like make you rich. It actually wouldn't change anything, except you're not going to get left behind by holding fiat currencies. That's the main thing I think there that we should take away, is that as they print money, as the price of Bitcoin goes up, if you're not holding Bitcoin, you're going to lose significantly, because whatever you have isn't going to be able to buy as much as it did yesterday once they print all that money. So to me, just because the price of Bitcoin goes up, that doesn't matter. To me, the thing that we need to be focused on is people understanding Bitcoin, the green light coming on within Bitcoin, because as the demand grows for Bitcoin, as there's more and more people who understand it and who are fighting for that fixed bottom supply, that's when the actual value of Bitcoin goes up. Because if every person on the planet was allocated to Bitcoin and they printed a bunch of money, that would have a zero impact on anybody. But because there's only about 1 or 2% of people in Bitcoin right now, that's the opportunity that anybody watching this show right now or this clip later on, that's the opportunity that shows up, is because most people are not here yet. And if so, two takeaways there. You're going to be very poor if you continue storing your wealth in fiat dollars or equivalent. And number two is that the opportunity here is that there's only about 1 or 2% of people who are in Bitcoin, who understand Bitcoin right now. So as the shift happens, as the rest of the people show up, those scarce units that you're holding right now are going to become more valuable, because there's going to be more people fighting for those scarce units.
So I wanted to kind of like just I'm going to push back in a gentle, loving way on something you said, and that was, I think you said, don't look at the price right now. You need to understand what's going on in Bitcoin. And I love that quote. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because that is our normal thing. When you turn on a light in a dark room, everybody looks at the light. If you're a moth, you always go to the flame, right? You're always going to be looking at that. Well, why is it that we say, don't look at the price, look at what's going on in Bitcoin? Like, okay, Jor, like whatever, the price is the most important thing, you nitwit. If you didn't know that, I mean, what are you even doing on YouTube? Like, no, it's not like that. And here's the reason why, is because you don't understand enough about Bitcoin to know why the price is not that important. It is important, right? It's always going to be important. There was no price of Bitcoin, we wouldn't even be sitting here. But it's not that important. You got to know what's under the hood. That's why you do your research. That's why we do this stuff. That's why right now I'm saying segue into, you have to work hard. You have to go after your Bitcoin knowledge. You need to go after like how to purchase it. You need to go after knowledge on how to store it, how to secure it, how to, like like I wrote one basic thing on the notes here for this show, and really wanted to get into this, and that is like, well, what is the best practice then in Bitcoin? Well, guess what? Like when the internet started, we didn't know what the best practice was. We didn't know anything about the internet because we had to learn about the internet. It's like, what is this thing at first? We spent 10 years trying to figure out what is this thing? Well, we don't have to like reinvent the wheel. We don't have to you know, like, like, okay, we just have to learn about it. Okay. We have to learn it. And there's no other way. There's no shortcuts. Jordan he didn't get to where he's at right now by just kind of going bing, and he's on YouTube and he's got all this knowledge. And no, he's paid his dues. I'm paying my dues. We're all on this train together. Those of us who are interested in learning about Bitcoin, and we're all trying to help the people that are behind us. They're half a mile behind us on the trail. We're helping them. They're helping us. I hope that I can bring knowledge to people that are way ahead of me about stuff that I know about that they've never experienced. Let me give you an example of, let me going to go in just for a second here. I'm going to go on a rant here, Jor. Best practice. Okay. We talked about best practice. Okay. So in EMS, in emergency medical service, there's best practice. There's national registry paramedics, and they have to have the rules and the knowledge that are entire country, all 50 states practice at least at or below the best practice rules of the National Registry for Paramedics. Okay. That's what's considered the gold standard in paramedicine in the United States. Okay. Medical doctors, they have the same kind of thing. They have, I won't go into that, but customer experience, customer service, there's certain levels of white glove service, or just like not so great, Rajat, he has a CFA, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, that's a chartered financial accountant. Is that what that means?
No, not an accountant. I don't know what it is, honestly.
Okay.
Chartered
I think
financial advisor?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. They were actually, that whole organization was based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, where I used to live near there. But anyway, so CFA, they have very high standards on what they do in terms of advising their clients. They do it this way. There's a certain amount of they have to be above reproach and all these things. Well, we did the same thing when I was a contractor and when I was doing mold remediation. You do it to national standards, and then there's IICRC cleaning standards, and you have to do it a certain way. Now, there's ways to wiggle around that, but you really basically need to, establish these engineering controls and all this stuff you implement to get to best practice. Okay. We are in this industry called cryptocurrency, whatever. There's so much FUD and so much, the terminology and messaging is even messed up. It's hard to even distinguish, like, what exactly are you talking about? So the very first cryptocurrency was Bitcoin. There's all these other altcoins, but let's say the altcoins go over here and they get the back seat, they're at the back of the bus. Bitcoin's in the driver's seat and it's driving the bus. So in terms of best practice in Bitcoin, what we are looking at is, this has not ever been established before. We've never been here before. Guys like Jor and people like him, they're in this space trying to educate people. We're trying to get to absolute, the very best of the best of the best practice. Because when you're talking about money, you don't want to have anything that's less than, less than trustworthy. Okay. Because this whole protocol, this whole thing that is Bitcoin let's go all the way back to the white paper. And the white paper of Bitcoin was, for you guys who are new, that was where it all started. Satoshi Nakamoto wrote the Bitcoin white paper, and in it, he wrote about a peer-to-peer cashless exchange. Do I have that right?
Yep.
Okay. So this peer-to-peer cashless exchange did not wasn't required to have trust. There was no trust because it was trustless. It worked whether or not you like it or not, whether I like it or not, whether or not I trust this person, whether or not they trust me. They don't have to trust me. If we're transacting on the Bitcoin network, it doesn't require trust. Okay, so we can move things around. This Bitcoin can be transferred and stuff. So that's a big deal. This is why we have to have big best practice. This is why we have to like kind of walk carefully into this and make sure that we know what we're doing every step of the way. That as long as it depends on me, I'm going to bring my absolute best integrity and trust, bring my best humanly possible to the game, to this whole YouTube reputation, to everything that's interrelated to this. Okay. And I'm sure many of the other people are as well. Jor, I can't speak for you, but I know you well enough to know that you do that every day. You're doing the very best you can all the time. And with that, there's in terms of the best practice, you're going to speak to this, but in my mind, at the end of all of these different ways of securing and storing and learning all this stuff, that super backed at the very end of all this, this knowledge and stuff, you start moving towards that and you can get that established. Man, I don't know of anything that is better designed so that let's say you're the teacher and I'm the person who wants to store my Bitcoin. I can come to you and you go, okay, here's how you do this, you do all this stuff. And then without giving you any of my personal information, without giving you any of my passwords or anything, I can then do A and then B and then C in my comfort and privacy of my own house. I can do all these things and it's secured and it's bank level security. And you didn't have to know anything as my teacher. Okay, rant over.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. Like I think it's what I would say to that is a couple different things. Number one, I think that there's a big difference between when I say understanding, I want people to know that I'm talking about kind of two different things here. So there's understanding of like Bitcoin itself, the network, kind of what you were talking about there, Bodhi, in terms of how it all works behind the scenes. Because I do think that the more you understand it, the more conviction you have, but also the more able you are to protect that. Because in Bitcoin, the big difference, and I think what a lot of people struggle with, is that you are on your own, right? Like as much as people are starting to figure out that the fiat system, the legacy financial system that we come from is completely broken, they still have a very difficult time of leaving it because not only do they not know where to go, but they don't know how to do it. And so I think that that's the biggest point of friction right now is that they actually have to take on that responsibility, which they've never had to do before, right? Somebody breaks into your house, they steal your safe, they steal your whatever, your couch, your TV, your laptop. You get insurance for that. Somebody breaks in your house and they steal your Bitcoin. Sorry. And there's nothing that, at this point anyways, there's nothing that you can do about that other than protect it as best you can. So yes, I agree with you. I think that the further you get into Bitcoin, the more focus you should actually have on not so much what the price is doing, not so much which company added Bitcoin this week, but how are you going to protect the sats that you have today? But the other thing that I wanted to mention there, and kind of going back to the demand for Bitcoin and the understanding of it, I think that, again, if the US printed a bunch of money tomorrow and the price of Bitcoin shot up in alignment with that, Bitcoin holders didn't really gain anything from that because more money printing leads to higher prices. So you're still going to have to pay higher prices to spend your Bitcoin. It's a net zero. If you're holding fiat, you're going to lose there. But the point that I was trying to make there is that when you understand Bitcoin, that means that there's more people who are fighting for that 21 million Bitcoin. And every time that the price goes up and down, we usually see that when the price is going up, everybody's trying to buy Bitcoin, right? So let's say that Bodhi, or let's say that let's say that Matrix got into Bitcoin. It was his first month in Bitcoin. He bought Bitcoin at $75,000. 2 weeks later, the price is $95,000. So it ran up. It'll keep running up as more and more people are buying. There's more demand. But when Matrix he bought at 75 and he's going to sell at 95, because that's just how things work. You buy low, you sell high, you cash out, you go back into the fiat world. And so people like, sorry, go ahead, Bodhi.
No, I think I lost you when you said 2 weeks. 2 weeks is the last part.
Okay, so let me repeat that. So Matrix has been watching the Bitcoin Generation show for a little while now, let's say, and he finally decided to buy, he or she, but that's it, decides to buy some Bitcoin. And so they bought in when the price was $75,000 US. Okay, so that's what they paid for Bitcoin. That's their cost base, right? That's their entry point. So the price runs up 2 weeks later to be 95,000, right? And so because they've made profit off that, because they've won, they sell that Bitcoin because they don't understand Bitcoin. So that Bitcoin goes back into the market. The price drops again. And the people who are still fighting, the people who are fighting for those scarce units hasn't really changed, because he just got into it because it was running up and then he made some money, he cashed out. It's a zero impact kind of thing here. But once you understand Bitcoin, you buy it at 75, it might go to 150, it might go to 1.5 million. You understand that it doesn't matter. I'm not selling this because I'm not trading it back for fake units that can be created out of nothing. So that's the understanding. That's what drives the real demand and the real value for Bitcoin. It's not just people buying it or the amount of people downloading wallets. It's the amount of people who have the conviction to know that you don't trade Bitcoin. You don't trade something that's real for something that's fake. And when people come to that realization, that means that there's more people fighting for the same amount of scarce units, which causes the value to go up of Bitcoin. So it's two kind of different things there in terms of like, yes, it's good to have the knowledge. You need to protect your sats, but also the more people who understand it, that's when the actual value of Bitcoin goes up, because there's more people fighting for that same amount of scarce units at the bottom. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And I love the latter part of that. I mean, it's great to be able to learn how to secure your Bitcoin, but it's also, it's another level of understanding to understand that the more of us that understand the value of Bitcoin, because it is a scarce asset, the more of us will be like, okay, yeah, those sats that are mined, those are going off the exchange, going into cold storage. They won't be going back on the exchange, because
that's exactly what I mean.
These are hold on for dear life moments.
And as the number of people like that grow, as more and more sats come off the market and into cold storage, that means that there's less and less sats available for the other 99% of people, which causes the value to go up. So what I'm saying is there's a difference between the government printing a bunch of money and the price of Bitcoin artificially going up to match that, versus people realizing that this is a real asset, everything else is fake. And once you get those sats, they never leave. There's more people fighting for those scarce units, which causes the value of it to go up in a real way, not artificially.
Yeah, no, it's.
Oh, you're on mute, Bodhi, or I lost you.
Am I? Did you lose me? I hope I'm still here. I think I am. I'm here on my end. Can you hear me? We're having some connection issues today.
Chat, can you let us know what's happening here? Did I lose Bodhi? Is it my audio or is Bodhi's mic off?
Yeah, no, mine's still working.
Megan sees us. Oh, and okay, so they hear. Okay, maybe it's something happened on my end, Bodhi.
I think so. I think it's that Manitoba internet you got up there. Okay. So this is what's interesting about online bilateral Canadian American relations. Sometimes it's stop and start, and sometimes it works, but.
Sorry, Bodhi, I can't hear a damn thing.
Can you hear? You cannot hear me.
What could I do here?
You can't hear me. Okay. Well, we'll just keep. I'll tell you what. Let
Hmm.
me catch up the chat here. Let me catch up the chat. We got
Okay, Bodie, I'm
Lisa.
gonna restore my page here, and I'm gonna see if that helps anything. So I'm gonna disappear for a couple
Okay,
minutes or a couple seconds.
sounds good. Sounds good. So we got Letha in the chat, sweating and smiling together. Welcome, health and wealth dad. What's up? Buck 52,000 coming on. Truth and trust. Yes. Bitcoin is reparations. I'm interested in, like, I've seen, I think I've seen that before, and I don't know. Buck 52,000 says Bitcoin is reparations, and I've seen that before, and I don't know exactly what he means by that.
I'm back, Bodie. But
Okay, good.
reparations to me in that context would be like being repaid. I mean, getting rewarded for understanding that there's a massive problem, and that massive problem will flow into the people who understand that earlier. That's kind of what I would say for that. Like reparations is repaying somebody for damages done.
Okay.
So yes, I think that that's absolutely true. Like there's going to be a lot of millionaires that are millionaires today that aren't going to be millionaires in the future.
Right. Right.
A lot.
Yes. And that is probably not going to go over well with them. So we have a new listener I haven't seen before, Randy Shoemake. Welcome.
Randy.
Health and Wealth Dad. Hadn't heard of him before. I don't think. Maybe. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe.
That's Yogi.
Oh, yes. Okay, Yogi. Right. Okay. He changed up his name there a little bit or something. He's got a different name on YouTube.
Look at that nice profile
Welcome.
pic.
Yeah, I like the hat. Yeah. Okay. Kyle M. Oh, this I love this. If Jack Mallers doesn't show proof of reserves on 21 Capital, I think it's going to be that's going to be stand by 1 second. We have a technical difficulty. I think okay, Jor is in and out today, but that's okay. We're the weather's fine over here.
This is my first day on YouTube.
It's okay. I'll train you in everything you need to know. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, we had Verhoof die Floofen was asking what's the family tartan in the background. Yeah, that's my That's my wife's family. And I don't really know which one it is exactly. She had quite a few of them that were back there. Yeah, so Matrix or Matrix. Yeah, they had 2 years ago. His friend's house cost 10.5 Bitcoin, and today it only costs 4.5 Bitcoin. So that's 2 years, and it went down like 50% or more. So, wow.
And that house probably went up from 400,000 to 600,000 in dollar terms, but it's gone down in Bitcoin, and soon it'll be 0.45 Bitcoin, and then it'll be 0.045 Bitcoin, and then so on and so forth. And you can do the math pretty easily yourself on this. If you believe that Bitcoin is going to be the future reserve currency of the planet and beyond, maybe take the number of houses on Earth and divide it by 21 million and see how much in Bitcoin terms houses are actually worth in a fair, true market.
Yeah.
It's the only difference between 10 to 4.5 to 0.4 to 0.04 is people realizing this. That's the only difference.
Yeah. Math. And like we said, Bitcoin doesn't care. And if you listen to Citadel Dispatch, Matt talks about TikTok next block, or that other people say that too. TikTok, it doesn't care. TikTok, clock goes by, time goes by. more blocks get made. Bitcoin
More
doesn't care.
transactions,
Transactions
more
happen,
data.
more data. It's just the thing. It's like, okay. And what really is kind of comforting to me I would consider myself a new Bitcoiner, especially when I listen to, some of y'all, and guys that have been in this for, 5, 10, 15 years. I think of like, okay, some of them are really humble and some of them not so humble, but the fact that they're very a lot of these guys and gals are very forgiving. They're very understanding. They're like, yeah, no, it's okay. I was there too once. And many of them are actually like, like, I'm interested in learning from you. These people have been around for a long time. They're actually, the reason why they're so like advanced in Bitcoin is because they understand that they still need to learn things. They don't, a lot of them aren't like, like I got all this. I know everything. I got all the information I need to know. Like you would see in that system we talked about before that is dying. You've got the guy who's been on Wall Street for 40 years and you ain't telling him nothing. He's in charge and he's going to make 50 times more money than you ever could.
Oh,
Like, no, that's not the kind of mindset that you run across with Bitcoiners. And that's what's so great about Bitcoin is because you have people that are willing to help you.
Yeah.
I love, we had a meeting earlier today and I just love the kind of the way that people come across in Bitcoin. It's just so great. It's like so many people are willing to help you. And, like you have a down day, no problem. It's going to happen. There's going to be days where you're going to wake up and to be like, oh, I can't do this, or something, right? It gets difficult, right? And I think we're kidding ourselves if we think that, life doesn't happen, right? I mean, it happens. I'm sure it happens to you, Jor. I know it definitely happens to me. But what do? You get up the next morning, you're like, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Bitcoin's going to keep going. Doesn't, I had a little setback today. What's, not a big deal. We're going to keep going, keep learning.
just a bad day, not a bad life.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thankful. 52 minutes in, here we are, Matrix says here, he says, I share Bitcoin with all that I can. It seems too early yet here in Vancouver to have my mechanic, dentist, local grocery store, etc. Not enough people yet asking them if they take Bitcoin. Boy, this is great. This is a great comment for anywhere you live in the country or Canada, any country. You go up to people and you start asking them, hey, you take Bitcoin? No. I mean, I was asking this of a guy that I bought some lumber from the other day. We're building planters so we can grow some vegetables, and I'm planting them out of cedar, making them out of cedar. And I'm not going to buy cedar planters. Are you kidding me? I got some skills. I built a house. I know how to do some stuff. Well, going to build these things, right? I asked this guy, he gets lumber off his property and around his farm. I said, you take Bitcoin, I can pay you in Lightning. He's like, no, don't take Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, here's some deflating fiat pieces of paper, here you go. But you should absolutely ask people that live in your neighborhood, people that you go and you buy coffee from, people that you do business with, the farmers markets, especially, and point back to the thing that they have in Vancouver. They've got the Sats market, right? The Sats, isn't it Sats market is what it's called?
Yep.
And I think that's what Matrix is referring to.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I think it's good practice because number one, I mean, what's the worst they say is no, then nothing changes in your dynamic of your day. But I really think it's going to be the business owners who drive it, not the consumers. I think that business owners are going to understand that there's just so much to it. I mean, I could list off probably 5 or 6 reasons why businesses should accept Bitcoin today, but they're going to start seeing the strategies, the 21 Capitals, the GameStops. Everybody's going to want Bitcoin because it is the most solid thing that you can build on. It's the fixed currency, and it's the one that's going to go up forever. Not only do you save transaction fees, not only do you eliminate chargebacks, not only do you grow your marketing and demand for your products because Bitcoiners are so willing to support, right? Because if there's two businesses side by side, one accepts Bitcoin, one doesn't, I'm choosing the one that accepts Bitcoin. So their audience, their demographic is only going to grow from that. Plus, there's just so many different reasons why businesses should be accepting Bitcoin. Plus non-KYC Bitcoin. Somebody pays for a product or service over the Lightning Network. Do you have to report that to anybody? I don't know. Who's going to ask? They know if you tell them that you got it, but other than that, there's no way that anybody would know that you received those sats. So there's an abundant amount of reasons why businesses should be accepting Bitcoin. And I think that that's when it's going to happen, is when they realize, we're going to go from a point of 0 businesses accepting Bitcoin to 5% of businesses accepting Bitcoin, and then businesses not accepting fiat anymore. That's the progression that's going to happen here. It's just going to take time. And
well, there's a lot of companies. There's a lot of businesses and a lot of, terminals in these stores that they're card only. You can use a card on this, but they don't accept cash. That's a very common practice right now. But, for a different reason, to be able to, and it's a convenience factor. If these big companies get on board, they're going to be like, okay, instead of just tapping your card that has this one logo on it and it does this immediate like debit from your bank, no, you take this card, and let's say it's a fold card in the United States. Let's say it works. I have found, and I know there's some people in the chat that have found that it's very convenient just to be like, boom, tap. It works just like your other card. It has the same exact logo on it, but the back end under the hood, it's actually, it's all Bitcoin and US dollars can swap back and forth kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's very convenient. And I'm not, again, I'm not push and fold. I get nothing for that. I use it. It's something that I've talked my wife into helping. We're going to start using it to pay bills and things so we can get some sats back. We don't want a discount in fiat dollars. We want sats back, right? That's what I've tried to, instill the knowledge of. But the reason why we have to drill down on the knowledge, and it's not convenient. You got things you're doing every day. You get out of your comfort zone to do something different. But I would say drill down on the knowledge base, even if you know a lot already. I say this because this is what I'm doing. It's difficult to challenge yourself to learn more and do those things. And Jor, you're very good at challenging people to do more, to get further, because in 10 years, you'll look back and go, man, I'm so glad I learned such and such. I can look back a year ago and I could say, I'm glad that Jor challenged me on some things. And I did learn some things about that thing. And I'm really glad I learned those things. So we're challenging you today to drill down on your knowledge and to understand like why you need to learn this. And because A, we're telling you, there's all this stuff that's going on in the world right now. And if you're not paying attention, you're definitely, got your head in the sand. You need to know what's going on. And don't look, you got to read between the lines. Don't look at what they're saying. Oh, look at this, Amazon, Steve Bezos and his girlfriend and wife or whatever landed in the desert with this, what? You're wasting your time. You're looking at stuff you don't need to be looking at. You need to be paying attention to some stuff that's actually real, right? And there's such a competition for our attention these days. So anyway, hopefully if people are going to find this, we're going to find out. We're going to find out very soon that I think we were right about a lot of these things, about the reason why Bitcoin is going up. It is going up a little bit. Not worried about the price, but it is going up because the system is over here is going down, and then and there is a flight to safety, right? Too. Um, there are some people going into gold and things like that because they have it. That's something that it's a flight to safety. But when you look at, the big money that's being moved and why and where it's being moved, it's it's the biggest thing. It's the biggest elephant in the room that nobody's talking about, and we need to have a lot more conversations. Anyway, Jor, I'm gonna tee you up to kind of like head us out of here. I mean, we've got a lot of comments here. We want to kind of acknowledge some of these things, but um,
Well,
there is
Bodie.
one thing I wanted to say.
I probably got about 10 more minutes. So we can take some questions here if anybody has any and kind of touch on the ones that are there. I want to give a couple shout outs though to the Nostr chat because they've been doing a lot over there and I've kind of been not ignoring them, but I haven't really acknowledged them. So Daniel, our guy Daniel zapped 888 sats. Ralphie zapped 500 sats. Mark zapped 21 sats twice. And some good comments in there. Ralphie says the problem with education in Bitcoin is not the educators, but the fact that people don't want education. And I think that that's true. I think that that's it's true. Bodhi talked about the moon land, the second fake moon landing we saw there. It's just everything's a distraction. It just seems like you can spend as much time as you want doing anything that you want to. And it really is the biggest decision you'll ever make in your life is where you're going to allocate your time and energy towards. And to me, I really believe that this is the better way to do things, which is Bitcoin. And I'm doing everything that I possibly can to try to bring that into a reality here. And the other thing that I would say is those people who are watching this, who have taken an interest in learning about Bitcoin, you have to protect your sats because regardless of how many sats you have today, if you're not protecting those properly and you lose them in 10 or 20 years from now, then this was all for nothing. So I think that if you're here, if you understand Bitcoin, if the green light has come on in your mind, you should shift your focus to security. Make sure that those sats are safe. And secondary, shift your focus to what's inside here. Manage your mental health, manage your reaction to things. That's what I'm putting a big focus on myself, reducing my stress, eating better, exercising more. Like I got everything that I need. If Bitcoin turns out to be what I think it's going to, even a fraction of what I think it's going to, who cares? I'm good. So why am I so worried about what's going on over here? Why am I so worried about this bill or that bill? It's like, whatever. You don't need any stress in your life. If you're holding Bitcoin in 2025, if you protect those sats, your family's good forever. So just like take a little bit of pressure off yourself because you've earned it, and I don't think that enough people acknowledge that. It takes a lot of balls to show up. It takes a lot of balls to put in the time instead of doing something else or with your family or, watching Netflix or, NFL, whatever it is. You're taking time to be here and learn about this because you give a shit. And the other thing I'd say on that is that people really underestimate how valuable this knowledge is going to be. I mean, perfect example, Jack Mallers. He does a live show every week. I mean, he has a pretty successful company in Strike, but he's like 25 years old, but he gets it. That's the difference. He gets it. He's put in the time. He gets it. And he's now the CEO of what will become one of the biggest companies on the planet. So do not underestimate the knowledge that you have within Bitcoin, because again, there's about 99% of people on this planet who still have to show up and understand Bitcoin, how to understand how to buy it, learning how to protect it, learning how UTXOs work and how to manage your private keys and how to send it and use Lightning and Liquid and eCash. Everybody needs to know this information. So the amount of people who need this information versus the amount of people who have this information, there's a massive gap. And I want people to really understand how valuable the information that's in their head right now, other than just, becoming more wealthy in purchasing power terms. You're going to be in very high demand, whether you want to or not, whether you believe that or not. That is the absolute truth.
Well put. I wanted to say, we kind of circle back to the title of the thing. You think you know about Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin doesn't know about you. And you have a lot of quality experience. You have dealt with people. You have, kids, grandkids, parents, grandparents. There's so many people in your orbit of people that you're going to be touching with your knowledge of Bitcoin. They're going to need you. They're going to need you to have solid information. And this is why I'm encouraging you to drill down into this and all these different things that you're learning about. They're going to be a valuable resource to people. In some cases, it could mean life or death. I'm not kidding you. This could actually be that important. And I mean, don't want to segue too far away, but Jor, your encouragement to to consider writing an ebook. I mean, that's stuff that I've got experience in. I've got some experience in medical things and stuff. Would that be something that could be valuable to someone? I think maybe. So I can put that in in the context of it's value adding. You're adding value to people that do your homework, get the right kind of potty training, in terms of getting all your Bitcoin knowledge, get good knowledge, and then you provide value. And if you are really good at what you're doing, this guy right here in the blue hat next to me, consider teeing it up and talking to him about if you have good enough skills to teach people. He has an organization that could use someone like you. So those kinds of things are out there. They're possible. You can stack your sats that way too. So, I kind of want to just bring this back to, the humility of guys, gals, we're thankful for you to be here. I really want to say thank you to Flo Forte. I think that's Frank. Zapped us 888 sats. Thank you, sir. I know you got some other zaps over in the Zapdot stream. I actually don't see the Zapdot stream on I have one monitor here, and it's all I can do to kind of get Jor's in and out again, but he's coming up to a hard stop here soon. So we're gonna wrap this up. But
can you hear me?
I can hear you. I cannot see you, but I can hear you. There you are. I see you now. It's that kind of day, isn't it?
I'm used to it.
Well, we have some old friends here in the chat, some friends that we've known for a long time. Let me say that. Noah, Letha. We have thank you very much, you all, for your sats, for your support.
Jimmy John. I see Jimmy John in the chat. What's up, brah?
Yeah.
He's a local legend, I guess, on the YouTube anyways.
Awesome.
I hang out with him every night in Jerry's live chat. And as Megan said there, look at Jimmy John being nice. He usually is pretty hard on Bitcoin, pretty hard on Jerry and anybody in the chat who's willing to go against him. But I do think that Jimmy John, again, just plays a hard ass on the internet.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'd be watching many Bitcoin podcasts if he didn't have some Bitcoin itself. I've never met anybody who doesn't own Bitcoin but pays attention to Bitcoin things. It's not something that ever happens. So Jimmy John, I know you're a Bitcoiner. I know you're a good guy at heart, and I appreciate you being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what the great thing is that Bitcoin is great for your friends and for your enemies. No matter who, right? It's all good for Bitcoin, and that's great for all of us who use it, right? And at the end of all that, at the end of all the Bitcoin of friends and enemies and all that, you really kind of find out like some people really aren't your enemies.
True.
Right?
Like Jimmy John.
You never know. But really, the proof of work is really in like the when you get to the actual point where you're actually going to meet someone in person, then that's where you find out, don't you?
Yeah, I've only been to one Bitcoin meetup in my life, so I'm used to being the weird Bitcoin guy in most places I go. So it'll be nice to feel at home, you might say.
Yeah, same. One Bitcoin meetup in my whole life too.
But it is different. It's I would encourage you. I mean, again, I've only had one kind of real meetup that I've went to, but it was something that I would do again. It's something that I would recommend everybody try to do. And yeah, it's important. I mean, it's great to have friends online. It's great to spend a lot of time on YouTube, on Noster, on Twitter, whatever that is. But don't forget about the real world going on out there. And maybe this is how I'll wrap things up today. I think it's important to understand that there is a virtual world. It's growing, like the internet. People like to say Bitcoin's going to become the next Blockbuster or the next MySpace, but they don't understand that Bitcoin's actually a protocol, like the internet is. So with that in mind, I think it's important to note that we have the online world, which is going to grow. The commerce, the transactions, the communication, everything is going to continue to grow on the internet forever, probably, unless we come up with a new internet, but I don't foresee that. But the nice thing about it is the majority of things online are fake. There's a lot of bots. There's a lot of AI videos now. It's going to get more and more fake. Bitcoin is the only thing that ties reality into the internet. And the reason why that happens is because it takes real life physical energy to create Bitcoin. You cannot get Bitcoin unless you put in the work. That's what Jack was talking about there, the proof of work. You cannot fake Bitcoin. You cannot replicate Bitcoin. You cannot print Bitcoin. You have to take energy from the real world, from the physical space, put that through a miner and try to compete for Bitcoin in that sense, or you add value to somebody else's life. Either way, there's no printing, there's no shortcuts in Bitcoin. So yes, it's great that the internet's growing, but thank God for Bitcoin, because it's the only thing that ties like the real world into this digital space that we have now that is going to only continue to get bigger and get weirder. So Bitcoin's what's the glue that's going to hold everything together here.
Very good. Very good. I 100% agree. Even with the technical difficulties we have today, boy, this is just like just a challenge in patience and perseverance, isn't it? With the technical stuff. Hey, it's all good for Bitcoin though, right?
As Nick said over in the Zap stream, he said the 5 people who live in Manitoba are all in the dial-up internet at the same time.
Oh, I do love that. I love that. The humorous side of Bitcoin too. All right. Oh, it's so good. It's such a good thing to be here so early in this. I am so thankful for Bitcoin. I'm so thankful for the people in Bitcoin. You guys are amazing. Catch Jor in many places. But I would say one of the things he's got going on is the Bitcoin. I'm sorry, the 365 days of Bitcoin. That is something that I will admit that I am not nearly there on that yet, but I need to get there. So join me in getting on 365 days of Bitcoin on Jor's channel, and then we'll continue to do these every Thursday, Lord willing, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Any further questions or any comments before we head out? Look at this guy. Look at this guy slinking in the back door there. Oh, yeah. He says, oh, they're about to wrap it up. I'm going to come in for a little.
You can tell when we're winding things down for sure.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. So Jor's got his Patreon right there, and just love it, guys. Love it, guys. Keep up the good work. Keep up the education. Keep up the good energy. Thank you so much for your time, your attention, your zaps. We love it here on the Bitcoin Generations, where our whole goal is to preserve your wealth for future generations. So with that, we will see ya later. Right?
Thanks, everybody.